Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of At the Bar, where we get a chance to sit down and have conversations around health and fitness and mindset with a variety of folks. Today on the show, we've got Chris Garrett. Chris is an athlete at the gym, gotten to know him over the years here, and thought he'd be a great candidate to come on the show, tell us a little bit about himself, and share with us some of the different ways in which he's focusing on fitness and mindset and things like that. So really excited to have him on. So Chris, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we'll help our listeners get up to speed on telling us just a little bit about yourself. Give us a background or a feel for what's going on in your world.
Yeah, so right now a lot. I've got I'm 39 years old, married to my amazing wife, Megan, who I'm sure, some of you know if you see her dropping in to the Shoe Fly 45 class too. And then, together we have two daughters. So I'm a girl dad of a 5 and a 3-year-old, Emerson and Scarlett, and they're a handful too. I know some of the guys on this Shoe Fly Sluggers team have seen them out at the games screaming and yelling. And we have another one on the way here in the next couple of weeks, actually. So getting ready to start that whole world over again with a third girl. So girl dad for life. So between all those things, I just professionally, I work in the insurance industry and the catastrophic peril wholesaling industry kind of stuff, hurricane insurance type industry. And then I try my best to work out as much as possible. So I fit that all in there somehow. So
Yeah, and I love that, giving us sort of a lot of different pieces to work with here. And I'm sure we're going to have an opportunity to dive into a variety of them. Let's start with the fitness side, and then we'll kind of work our way through some of the family and other pieces. So tell us a little bit about what your fitness journey has been like. So being 39 now, probably had a variety of things you've gotten into. Currently, CrossFit is what's been on the docket, but give us a little background into what your fitness history's been like.
Yeah, so I've done a lot. I grew up with two brothers that we were separated by only 4 years. Actually, my oldest brother is less than a year older than me. And so we competed at everything and with everything. I mean, it could be a tape ball, wiffle ball, home run derby in our basement, or, whatever it was. We were just always competing. And unfortunately for me, since I was so close to age to my older brother, I usually ended up having to play level up in competition because they didn't want to split us up. So I ended up being, the 7-year-old playing in the 8, 9, and 10-year-old leagues and things like that. And so I was always exposed to levels of competition that were superior to me, and I felt like that helped my development, certainly. Made me an extremely competitive person because I never wanted to fail, never, and I don't like to fail, and I always like to win. So it just made me try all that much harder. So I put a lot of focus into that. Grew up playing bat and ball sports, team sports, excelled in a variety of them. Really focused on baseball and did that for a while. Had some bad luck, like 99.9% of all the people who play sports. And eventually at one point I had to make a decision that time had come and gone, due to various injuries and just not being able to compete at that level, and making that realization and moving on. Then my fitness journey kind of went dark. It was kind of like it was non-existent after, years of working hard, waking up in the morning, strength training, conditioning training, practice, game, whatever it was, just life consistently revolving around athletics to, hey, I'm just done with it, and so I kind of focused on my career outside of sports and kind of, left fitness altogether for a while there. And then flash forward, years of, not taking care of myself and things like that, came to the realization, hey, I really need to get in shape. And, I had some stuff going on. So I started actually into the world of like kind of endurance sports. So like long distance running, marathons, triathlons, things like that. So I did that for years until my back started taking a toll on me from all the training, and ran into some pretty bad back problems. ended up having to have a pretty significant laminectomy back surgery when I was 33 years old. So about 7 years ago now. And then that started the next part of my journey. After back surgery and after, a year of rehab and constant physical therapy and getting through that situation, it was finally signed off that I could start doing something physical and active again. And I really didn't know what that was going to be. So I started to try to run again, and I realized really quickly that it wasn't going to be running, especially long distances, a lot. And if anybody who knows endurance running, you have to put in the miles. That's just what it is. The miles are necessary. Sure, I can go out and run a half marathon one time, but if I want to do it competitively, I got to do it a lot. And that wasn't going to be the case anymore. So at that same time, my younger brother had started CrossFit not too long before that, and he kept, he was kind of needling at me and saying, "Hey, it's something where you should really give it a shot. It would be good for your back, good for your core, put strength back on you." Since I neglected strength since I quit team sports, I didn't lift weights, and then I physically wasn't able to lift weights because of my injuries at one point. Just wasn't able to pick up anything more than a gallon of milk. So, but my only recollection of CrossFit was one time seeing on ESPN2, and I thought of, what a joke it was. Because I think, if I recall, it was like the power snatch workout with like Jason Khalipa. And I think the bar was only like 75 pounds, and they were like sprawling all over the place. I mean, the form was terrible. It was just disgusting to watch. And I'm just sitting there like, that's not something I want to do. That looks like I will hurt myself, not help myself. But he kept at me. And then I went to try out a CrossFit workout with him. And as soon as I did it, I was instantaneously hooked. I mean, it was one workout. It wasn't, we were in the warm up, and I was just like, you know what, this is something I think I'm going to like. And then after that day, I signed up immediately for a year. And I've been going at it since for 7 years. Since that's kind of like a background of what, how I got to where I am today. And obviously now I'm 7 years into it. And I'm more fit than I was 7 years ago. So I would keep trying to, follow that path.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that so many athletes have a very similar journey. I think mine, mimics yours of you're told to work out a certain way and you show up and you're working towards a specific goal. And then you finally get out of that and you're kind of like, well, now what do I do? And it's interesting that, your fitness journey went dark, and I had a similar experience. And what I'm curious is, with some of those different fitness adventures you've had, whether it's the endurance or the CrossFit, what is it that you're looking for, or what is it maybe that sort of pushed you into some of those different fitness adventures, whether it was the endurance or whether it was the CrossFit? Like, what stuck out to you as the things that were most enjoyable about them?
Yeah, overall, it's my health and capability, being capable of doing things. You know, is priority number one. Is just, obviously having a wife and kids that makes me just want to get up every day, and wants me to be able to get up and do things every day. And so I think the number one objective that I have is minding my health and fitness. And then, complementary to that is, the more that, just given my nature, the more that I do it, then the more the competitive side comes in. Then it's like, then I want to take it to the next level. And so then that is kind of what it ends up transitioning into, where, as long as I'm achieving objective A and it's my main guiding focus, objective B kind of just falls right in line with that. Because whenever I do something, I put all of my effort and energy into it. I don't like to do, I've given up things to that, like golf. We talk about golf a lot. Like golf, I used to be a really good golfer, and I just don't have the time and energy to put enough time because I can go out there and play around and just not perform well and not enjoy it. And so it's like, if I don't have the time to do something, it's really hard for me to commit, because there's so many different things to do. Time is very short. Days are only so long, and you got to sleep to recover. And so it's, you only have the opportunity to take advantage of things. And so when I do things, I want to be intentional with them, and I want to focus my time and make sure that I'm doing them to the best of my abilities.
Yeah. And some things that I think were really cool, what you said there, was having a variety of reasons for what pushes you or makes you want to engage in fitness, and having that top priority, and knowing what that is in terms of being able to move and keep up with your kids and be there for your family is a really, really strong why. And then that secondary piece is still enjoying the competitive side, is really, really something that can help us to stay consistent along the way. And something that I heard you mention there that I thought is interesting, and maybe you can give us some greater insight into, is the idea of time. And you think about, over the last year and a half, and you've got a lot more experience than just that, of how everybody's schedules and daily routines and things have shifted, for better or for worse. But I think a lot of people do feel like they struggle to find the time to engage in movement for the day, or to eat a certain way, or to push themselves in a certain way, especially when you look at a full-time job, you've got family, kids on the way. Talk to us a little bit about how you've come to balance or find the balance with still prioritizing health and fitness and competitive goals with family and work life and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, fortunately, I'm one of the people that, for the last year and a half, things have somewhat gotten probably a little bit easier than they used to be.
Mhm.
My schedule prior to COVID, I think a lot of people know that I traveled a lot for work. I mean, I was gone virtually every other week, Tuesday through Thursday or Friday, in and out of hotels, on and off planes. Even trying to make room to work out in those situations is difficult because you're usually either sore, or you're tired, or things just aren't going right. It's hard to eat correctly when you're put into those positions. So things just become difficult. So I, like, before COVID, I was living this life of being in the gym for a week and then being out of the gym for a week, and it was just this like up and down. I was kind of just maintaining like an equilibrium, like a baseline of fitness. And then it wasn't until when COVID started where, I was all of a sudden, obviously I'm home every day. I'm not traveling. So I was really able to, it's not only just be working out every day, but also eating correctly every day. Because we, for the most part, we eat pretty healthfully at home, and so you could get away from that on the road. So just settling into my weekly lifestyle of what used to look like when I was not on the road, but doing that on an everyday basis every week, it worked out for me really well. And I started getting into much better shape very quickly. I was losing the right type of weight. And then that's when it started the newest journey that I'm on, where it's like trying to gain weight. And that's been a big difficulty. But I think the time thing for me also is, I'm fortunate that since I've always worked from home, I've always been able to, like, when I was home, or when I am home now, I always kind of center my midday break, like lunch break, if you will, around going to the gym. So I've always had that leeway to be able to do that. And I know that's harder for some people to have to go to an office, or, things like that. So fortunately for me, I haven't had to exchange time with my wife and kids to come to the gym in the evenings or something like that, or force myself to need to wake up at like 5 a.m. to hit those AM classes, like I know a lot of people do. But I have done that in the past. I don't enjoy it. My back doesn't really, to this day, really cooperate with me first thing in the morning. It takes me a couple hours to get that warmed up. But so those are things that, but I just I try to manipulate my schedule to always make sure that I prioritize that one, at least the 1 hour in the middle of the day to hit the gym. And so my advice to anybody would be, whatever it is, whenever you can make to the gym consistently, just always try to prioritize that hour, because it's the most important thing for me. The most important thing is being healthy, because then if you're not healthy, none of the other things really matter. I mean, you're not going to be around, or your lifestyle will deteriorate over time. Things will add up if you're not taking care of yourself first. So that's why, when I started back into fitness, I needed to get my priorities in line with my health, because there's definitely some things with high blood pressure, things that just sneak up on you if you're not doing taking care of yourself properly. So
Yeah, and I am curious because I think that's a really unique perspective of, having the ability to plan out your day, block off the time that allows you to get the movement in for the day or eat healthier, things like that. What sort of differences have you noticed between when you were in sort of travel mode, week on, week off, and now? I know you mentioned that you were able to lose a little bit of weight. Now your goals have shifted a little bit. Anything else you notice, whether it's, physical, mental, anything like that, of just being consistent now?
Yeah, I mean, there was, I won't. I think one of the things that I realized is once COVID started to bake in, and there was a lot of, there was a lot of negative outlook going on like what things are going to look like, what's going to happen, and and I was no different. But one thing that I just decided was like, if I can make one positive situation come of this, what's it going to be? And it was like the only thing I could control was, what I'm doing, and what I could do is to work out and get healthy. And so it was like I enlisted the help of Street with her nutrition plan immediately, because I immediately noticed like, well, hey, look, I'm working out a lot more and I'm tired and I'm losing weight, and and things are, I feel like this is an opportunity to do something positive, right? Like to get something going in the right direction. So Street's helped work with me a lot with my diet. Anybody that doesn't work with Street, I would highly encourage you to do so, because just the gains that I've had with my fitness because of what I'm putting in my body is I feel is tremendous. So I'll never forget when I started eating, what she told me to eat, even regardless of how like I felt like I shouldn't be eating that much food or whatever the case what it was, but I just felt so much better in the gym, and it helped my recovery so much more to have the right stuff in me. So that, and then, that's kind of what I, strive to do initially, the changes I made to head in a different direction. And then there's, identifying some of my goals and what I wanted things to look like. I was also in the process when we were coming back to the gym, I was turning 39. So I'm, coming in, I'm a little bit older than most people at the gym. I know, there's some older people than me, but it's, 40 is a big year, I guess you'd call it. So it was like looking at, I've got a year, to 40. And so what does that look like? And, can I feel fitter or healthier than I've ever felt, and earn it? I feel like a lot of the things that I accomplished as a kid, or when I was younger, were based on God-given ability, and just talent. I didn't have to earn it. I hand-eye coordination is something, you can get better at it, but you're born with it or you're not. You can hit a 95-mile-per-hour fastball or you can't. It's not something that you learn. Whereas fitness, I feel like the thing I love about CrossFit is that it's for anybody, and the fact that if you show up and put in an honest effort and you do the reps, you'll get an honest result. I mean, if you do the work and you put it and you do it with an intentional, mindset, you'll get results. And that's what I like about it. It's like anybody can get better, and what your best looks like is different for everybody. I mean, that's when genetics and things come into play too. I mean, not everybody can be Matt Frazier because they show up to the gym every day, but you can be better than you were yesterday, or healthier than you were yesterday, or more mobile than you were yesterday if you work out with intention, and you put in an honest level of work. So
Yeah. Some things I heard you say there that I love. One was just that general perspective or outlook. Anytime we're faced with a challenge or a situation that may not look like it's going to have a great outcome, we have an opportunity to decide and choose how we want to think about it. And for you, it sounds like choosing to be a little bit more optimistic and say, hey, what can I do? What's within my control, whether it's nutrition, movement, etc., to take advantage of this situation. Sounds like that helped put you in a frame of mind that allowed you then to make some of those gains that you've experienced. There's a saying that I've heard rattling around our department where I work. It says, never let a crisis go to waste, which is very interesting to look at it from that perspective of that's usually some of those moments or opportunities for us to make big changes when there is a crisis or something big is going on. So taking advantage of that is amazing. And then on top of that, starting to dive into things outside of movement. What's the nutrition look like? What's the recovery look like? All of those factors to build this model of fitness. And what I heard you say too is, coming up on age 40, things are a little different than maybe they were when you were 20, 25, or 30. So you've been doing CrossFit for 7 years now. 40 is coming around the corner. I know you've competed a little bit over the last year. really focusing on all the factors around fitness. So talk to us a little bit about what's on the horizon, or what are some of your goals, or what are you striving towards? What continues to get you motivated to come to the gym to see where you can be when you turn 40?
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique time because I feel, 40, I obviously get to age up into the new age division of the masters. The athletes come next open season. So, that in itself presents an opportunity for me to really push it. I've been the old guy in the division that I've been in for a while. And so just maintaining my percentile scores was an achievement to itself, I think. And moving up in the world rankings, I guess you would call it, every year as I even got older was even, but now I think I have a unique opportunity that I feel like if I can put my best foot forward, I have my ultimate goal this year for fitness would be to make the online age group qualifier, make that top 10% in the world for the 40 to 44-year-old males. And just being around the gym last year with all the athletes that made the quarterfinals overall or made the age group qualifiers and the occupational games, that was just really exciting. And I was excited for everybody. I was always sticking around to watch because it's just amazing to watch people perform. That the level of activity at our gym is just amazing, and it's very motivating to be a part of it. So that's my ultimate goal that relates to fitness is this year is, and I have a lot of weaknesses to address because everybody knows my challenge, with double unders, and that's always going to be in the open. So I'm putting in the work right now. I mean, at least I'm trying to, and not being frustrated with it because there's no physical reason why I can't do it. I think I've created myself a mental situation at this point, but that's one of them. I've identified 3 areas of weakness that I think I need to have addressed in the next 6 months. And if I can do that, I think I stand a really good chance to make that goal realistic. So.
Yeah, it's one of those beautiful things about as you get older and wiser, you also get the opportunity then to age up. So when you look at the online or age group online qualifiers for the masters division, masters goes 35 to 39, 40 to 44, 45 plus. So you spend a couple of years going against what we would consider the young folks in that age group,
Right.
and then you get to age up. So now you get to be the young one in the category, which is awesome. And it sounds like that sense of community or camaraderie, pushing each other, really helps to drive you, whether it's working out, observing others, learning from others, whatever it might be. I'd be curious to hear a little bit about what's your mentality or mindset when you go into the gym. I think you've done the class programming, so you don't really have to worry about what the workout's going to be or figuring it out for yourself. It's already all programmed. You know what it is. You can see what it is. You have these goals in mind. So talk us a little bit about what it's like to go to the gym each day for you from a mentality standpoint. What do you think about going into the workouts? How do you prepare? How do you make sure that you're being intentional, like you said, with your time there? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I'm a Wodify watcher, I guess you'd call it. Like I'm always waiting for the workouts to be posted or whatever, like the day before. Or now I kind of, since I'm doing a lot of extra work in the gym and stuff like that, outside of just regular classes, I get a week's glimpse ahead of time to kind of, and I'm plotting out, what my strategy is going to be, or potentially worrying about the Wednesday workout is going to have double unders in it, whatever it is. But I'm always thinking about, it's always coming through my mind about, and then just like I said, there's my mindset is to be intentional. Like, so when I'm there, I might spend 2 hours at the gym, but it's to, I will want to be accomplishing something. And sometimes that accomplishment might be just recovering and sitting on a foam roller or whatever it is. But it's just, even if I'm chatting with somebody, I want, if it's doing something or putting in that extra work. But when I get there, I like to have a plan for what I'm going to do. So whether it's taking class, and then there might be, 3 other extra things that are listed in the additional training. And, I might have the intention of doing all 3, but then I really have to listen to my body. Sometimes that extra 3 things might turn into, okay, that didn't necessarily, class workout took more out of me than I thought it would, or Maybe I pick two of the three things to do and I focus on those two things, or maybe the three things that are, maybe the extra work isn't something that's really lining up with what I need to work on. And so then I work on addressing those weaknesses. I'll go work on some strict handstand push-ups or some strict pull-ups, things that, individually for me that I know are things that I've identified that I need to work on. And so I always have that plan go when I come to the gym, like what that hour to 2 hour window is going to look like, what I'm going to do. And then I try to accomplish it all. But if I need to make a change in direction, I do. But I always like to kind of show up with a plan. And they always say, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. And I mean, that happens. I mean, actually, yesterday's a perfect example. It's the first day I have not been to the gym when I've been in the state of North Carolina for like the last year and a half since COVID started, because I just, Tuesday just wrecked me. I did the class workouts. I did all the extra, street training. I went and played in the softball game. And I just, at the end of the night, I was just worn out. And I said, I got to take this day off. And I'm looking forward, today's Thursday, and I'm going to go in and do some of the stuff from yesterday today. But that was the first day that was not a Sunday that I haven't been at Shoe Fly, that I've been in North Carolina for like a year and a half. So it was a weird feeling to spend the whole day not being at the gym, because that's the other thing about, like you said, about community is just, I mean, especially during COVID, a lot of these people have become like, you guys have become my best friend. I spend more time with you than I spent with even like some people in my family, just because of what the situation was. And it's a great community to be a part of. I mean, everybody there is so supportive. And so helpful and motivating. And so it's a fun place to go spend 2 hours, when we can all suffer together and work out, but it's fun and enjoyable. And I enjoy my time while I'm there with everybody. And so I don't mind doing it at all. So.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing I heard you say there that I think is really a nice piece to take away, is this concept of intentionality, of really figuring out what is it that I'm trying to accomplish today. And like you even said, you can even take that to the level of what kind of intensity do I want to bring today? Is today I just need to move because previous days have seemed to accumulate for me? Or is it a day where, hey, I'm gonna put the pedal down and see what we can do today? Or, like you said, if things come up throughout the process, hey, maybe I got to shift or adjust. But having a plan, having some intention behind what you're trying to accomplish can be really, really powerful to being efficient with your time and your energy.
And sometimes your body and your mind are telling you different things. I think anybody, this day and age, I could have the mindset to have a good performance, and sometimes my body's just not ready to cooperate. But then there's those days, I don't know how to describe it, but there's a lot less of them than there used to be. But now in my age, it's like there's days when I just know my body, I can push it harder. And there's days I know I'm going to have a good day. And those days are really exciting, because that gives me, that's like the glimpse of, it's just really exciting to have everything working together on days, mentally and physically. And so physically, I mean, mentally you can control to the best of your ability. Physically you can't. So physically, the days that your body feels good and that you're going to perform, it's great to also already have been checked in mentally to be ready to go, so that you can really, when you see that workout that you're confident in, that you have a plan for, and you can attack it, and your body is going to respond that way that day, those are the best days. And I mean, just to go in there and have a workout lined up, like you couldn't have written a better workout for yourself, and your mind's already in it and you're ready to go, and you just go out and crush it. So like, anything that has wall balls and rowing, like I'm dialed in and I'm ready to attack it and put up a score, and see where it sticks at the end of the day. So
yeah, and I love that idea of not only physically being prepared, but mentally being prepared to put yourself into a situation where, hey, it's going to be challenging, might be a little difficult, but physically I know I'm ready, mentally I know that's lined up, and now that provides an opportunity for us to have a great performance. I think what's so unique about even the gym we're at, and I think a lot of gyms can probably relate to this, is that age difference. Like you said, at the gym where we get a chance to train, we've got 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and we have different levels of fitness amongst all of them. You said that you enjoy running with some of the competitive athletes and pushing things. And so I'm curious to hear from you, how do you figure out or identify how the body's feeling, how the mind is feeling. Because when you've got 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds or whatever it may be, and they're running through things, and you realize, hey, I have to stay in my own lane at times, but I also want to push and keep up with them. So how do you find that balance around pushing yourself, challenging yourself, but also listening to your body and realizing, maybe you're at a different stage compared to some other people at the gym?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost is a lot of humility. I think because you look, or at least I do, I still view myself as young, and I still feel like I act young, and, whatever the case may be, but it's, like I work out a lot with, like Maria, and Maria's almost half my age. And, I mean, she's an amazing athlete, and we work out at lunch, and just, and you push, and I push myself, but some days I have to realize, okay, Chris, or I have a result and I'm just like, man, like she beat me by like 10 minutes, well, yeah, I mean, I just have to come to terms with it. And I have to accept the days when I can beat Maria at something. And then I'm like, it's like, there's very few of those, by the way, but I mean, just, if there is that opportunity. But so mentally, I think it is challenging, because you see competitive people excelling at what they do best, and or you feel like you had that in you, or you still have that in you, and sometimes things just don't work out. But so it's being humble, and and accepting the fact that you're just not, as you get older, you have to, you just have to learn to adjust, and it's every day is not going to be your day. But just setting yourself up to perform the best as you can. And then, like I said earlier, it's just as long as if you're working out with an honest effort, and whatever that effort looks like for you that day, you're going to get better in whatever it is. And it might just be a mental accomplishment of finishing a workout, or or overcoming the fact that you just got beat by 10 minutes by somebody, but that's not the end of the world, because you have to realize what's going on. Versus looking across the room where somebody's looking at you and you beat them by 10 minutes, and they're they've got something going on that they're looking to get better at, and everything like that. So it's all relative to the individual person, and we each we each have our own challenges, and we're all in the gym for a reason. I don't think anybody comes, or I think it's like those memes that you see, like the people like be a psychopath, or somebody that comes to the gym just to, I mean, like, who goes to the gym if they don't have a reason? Like, you got to have a reason, right? And so everybody has their reason. And so really, ultimately, I think the more my mindset is that although I like to compete against people, I think at the end of the day, my mindset is to just make sure that I'm competing against myself, that I put in the best effort that I could put in that day for how I was feeling. And then that's got to be good enough for me, because if it's not, then I'm losing sight of that first priority, which is just like, look, I was capable of doing this workout. Like, I was healthy enough to do this workout, and that's my first priority. And I think, because I've been where I wasn't capable of doing like 99% of the stuff that we can, or I've had it taken away from me, or not been able to physically do it. So just the fact that I can do it now is a reward to itself. And that's when I try to reframe. I think reframing is a word that I've been using a lot lately. It was a word I picked up in church a couple of weeks ago, but just reframing your mindset around things like, I just got to do that mentally, to say, well, look, this is what the situation could be, but this is what it is, and make the best out of it. So
Yeah, so many nuggets there that we could pull a thread on here around this idea of, one, still enjoying competition. So realize, hey, it's okay to look at the whiteboard or look at who's next to you and still drive to see where I stack up or where I go. And at the same time, realizing that at the end of the day, what you can control is the effort and the approach and how intentional you are with the workouts, and finding the balance that allows you to stay consistent. If we swing one way or the other too far, sometimes it can get out of whack just a little bit, and we can experience some of that burnout or frustration at the gym. So it's finding that healthy balance. And then that final piece there that I think is really, really important is this idea of reframing. Realizing we have a choice in how we think about and how we perceive people, situations, events. It makes a world of difference because I think our brains love to jump to some initial conclusion about our abilities, our skill set, how we did in the workout, somebody else. And then we can take that step back and reframe or structure it in a way that's gonna be more beneficial for us. So you said it's a word that's been on your mind a little bit more recently, especially with maybe what's been going on over at your church. So talk to us about reframing. How have you implemented it, applied it? How have you seen it to be beneficial as a mental skill or a mental tool that you've used for your health and fitness?
Yeah. So I think it's just putting the situation as it applies to me, like the tree instead of the forest. So for instance, it might be like some of the extra work, that the extra work is written for the forest, right? But then you're the tree. And so it's like, well, what am, if I'm not capable of doing that, what am I capable of doing, or what part of it am I capable of doing, or what level of it am I capable of doing? And it's reframing it through my eyes and through my capabilities so that I can get something out of it. Because if I just attempt to do something I know I physically can't do, that I could potentially hurt me, or that I won't get any benefit out of, like, for me, trying to do 1 minute worth of handstand walking practice is a waste of time. It's not intentional. So that I have to say, well, what can I do for a minute that will allow me to futuristically be able to handstand walk for a minute? And so that's by reframing it and through the eyes of my capabilities is how I've been applying it to my fitness. And then also just from a competitive standpoint, it's like, okay, well, I can't look at what, yes, do I want to compete with Brad and put up a score that's capable of beating Brad or whatever? Yes, but at the end of the day, I got to reframe it to be like, I'm a 40-year-old. Brad is much younger than I am, and he's much more capable than I am. So it's not realistic to look at that frame in all scenarios, but to reframe it in a situation, well, how close was I, or how far off was I, and did I try hard enough, or did I put in an effort that, even if I didn't get close enough, is it an effort that I know I couldn't have done any better, given the circumstances? So just reframing things in those that are under my control, because there's a lot of things that I can't control, but just all circles back to like your effort, the honesty of your effort. And then sometimes you have to be honest with yourself, and you might not, like you said earlier, you might not have effort that day. And like, I would not, if I would have went to the gym yesterday, I would not have been able to put out an honest effort. So I wouldn't have been better than I was than when I got there. So I had to look at myself and reframe the picture and just say, okay, you need to take a rest day. And I didn't want to, but it's just in the reframing, it's like, you're not going to gain anything by going to the gym today. You're going to struggle through these workouts. You might even have a bad attitude. You're probably going to rub off on people incorrectly. That's the worst case scenario. I don't ever want to be a bad influence on anybody at the gym. Hopefully I'm not. I always want to, try to be positive, stuff like that. So that the reframing is, I think, is looking at things through your eyes and not, at least how you're measuring it, and not to put yourself at a disadvantage. It's a disadvantage for me to measure myself against Maria, and it wouldn't put me in a good a good mental position every day to show up knowing, like, if I'm measuring myself against Maria every day, well, it's going to be mentally tough to show up every day, because I know I'm not going to compete with Maria or Street or Brad and all these people every day. It's just not possible. So
Yeah. And what's really, really fascinating about what you just said there is, what is the measuring stick that we're using to determine how successful we are? I think it's one of favorite exercises I get a chance to do with folks, and it sounds like you've done it a little bit of yourself, is really trying to articulate and define what is success. And when you think about it in terms of, okay, we've got outcomes, winning competitions, taking a certain percentage in your age group, whatever it might be, those are really effective goals to strive towards. But what it sounds like, even in your case, is finding those controllable outcomes, those controllable factors that can define success for you. Did I put in an honest effort at the gym? Did I approach this workout with the right intentionality and the right mindset? Did I, stick to certain rep schemes, whatever it might be? And it seems like for you, that helps that consistency then of, you don't get these big highs and lows of every day, depending on what the whiteboard says, is determining how successful you were, but rather it's more based on the things that you can control, and that helps you stay consistent along the way. And you can take that peak once in a while to see how others are doing, but I'm measuring my own performance against my own standards. That seems like it's going to be more helpful for playing the long game than just those short little bursts of wins before then.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I used to do that, and it was mentally exhausting, and especially at my old gym. There was before I came to Shoe Fly, that's the type of mentality that I always had. It was, if I'm not good enough, or whatever the case may be, I was just always measuring myself and not really what I can control. And I was a lot more of an immature athlete at that point as far as CrossFit too. So there was definitely technical things that would eliminate me from the conversation immediately, but I didn't think of it like that because I was just thought of it like I should be able to do those things or learn those things. And it's taken me time to realize that it probably would have been easier to learn those things when I was 20 years old, but I've got a long laundry list of time and bad habits that I'm still correcting to this day. I mean, I do bar muscle ups rather successfully, but they're ugly, and I could do them a lot better if I had better technique. You know what I mean? So there's still things that even, that I learned that are probably wrong and that are wrong. And I know they are, and I'm working to fix those types of things too, to become more efficient, because as I get older, efficiency matters. It's like you can't afford to waste energy, certainly. So I'm trying to tidy up a lot of that stuff too. So, that's kind of where I am is trying to learn the stuff that I don't know and tidy up the stuff that, even that I think I know or that I think are my strengths, even like rowing. It's like, I mean, I can be humbled really quickly on a rower. And I just was on Tuesday. I mean, I even told Street, and I was like, I mean, it was like Monday and we were talking about something. And I said something about, oh, that's not a lot of rowing. And she was just like, kind of like, screw you, Chris, it's like, and I'm like, whatever. And then I did the workout, but because I'm so technically inefficient in double unders, my weak strength was eliminated, because when I got onto that rower, my heart rate was out of control, and those rows were the most challenging things that I never anticipated feeling like that on a rower, to where I was struggling to get off a rower and never thought I'd sit on a rower that long for those distances. And so it's that type of thing. It's humbling. And that's one thing I love about CrossFit every day, because you just never know. You just never know what to expect sometimes until you get in it. And that's what's interesting about it. Instead of just showing up to a gym and lifting weights for 45 minutes and scrolling through Facebook in between sets and then going home, it's like, you just don't know what to expect. And that's what makes it enjoyable for me.
So. Yeah. And I think we've had a really great conversation here today. And the things that I'm taking away that I love is this idea of focusing on the factors that you can control, determining what success looks like for you. Outcome goals, great, but then figure out what are the day-to-day metrics that you're going to measure yourself against, whether that's technique, whether that's or effort, attitude, whatever that might be, is really important. And then also, as you age, is finding that community, finding those groups of people that can support you, push you forward, and allow you to stay motivated. So I think that's always important. And then finally, too, even like we talked about in the way beginning of this idea of being intentional with your time. It's one of those resources we don't get back. You only have so many minutes and hours in the day. And for you, prioritizing what is meaningful and what is important to you, and then making sure that that stays on the calendar. And it will probably mean that some other areas may get sacrificed, but at least in your perspective and my experience as well, the return on investment is really, really high when it comes to including movement, including eating, including mental training or whatever it is into your day-to-day for what you can experience in the time you do get with your wife and kids or whatever it might be. So with all of that said, thank you so much for spending some time with us today and providing some of your insight that you've come to know over the years as an athlete and as a competitive CrossFit athlete now, competitive softball player. We've got another young one on the way, so excited to see how that plays a role for you. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Yeah, hopefully the new baby won't like wreck everything I just said, and then nobody believes me because I stopped showing up to the gym or whatever.
Yeah.
So
We'll
hopefully I'll be able to.
we'll have another episode a month or two into the newborn and see how does it compare to life without the newborn. So
Right, right. Like follow-up episode, and if Chris is keeping his commitment and advice.
that's right. So Chris, if anybody is interested in following along with your journey or life or anything like that, is there any way that you stay up to date or keep people up to date on what's going on, or how does that work for you?
I'm a terrible social media person. I don't post a lot. I surf a lot, but I don't post a ton. But I think my Instagram is Christopher C. Garrett, so I post things occasionally there. But and it's usually just pictures of my daughters or about NC State baseball. But but other than that, I don't update a whole lot. But that's something that I don't know. Maybe I'll change that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks so much, Chris. Thank you for joining us another episode of At the Bar.
All right, I appreciate it. Take care.